So for those of you who haven't been here in the beginning of the day, there was a lot of talks about the sharing economy and about big data and how we can get to knowledge from little bits and know exactly what ad you want. And I'm going to talk about obfuscation, which is a countermeasure for big data. It's a way of fighting against data mining and against this idea that we can be predicted and targeted, especially through advertising. And I'll present specifically Adnauseam, a collaboration I did with Daniel Howe and Helen Nissenbaum. So when we're talking about targeted advertising, the way targeted advertising works is you're browsing your websites. These websites have these embedded trackers. So these trackers are basically informing the watchers, like Gigia that presented here before, informing them about your activity, about where are you coming from, what is your activity on these pages, and what ads have you seen, what articles have you seen, how long have you spent on them, and most importantly, what have you clicked. And based on that, they're creating this profile on you that is becoming very, very valuable as a way of targeting more ads at you and predicting what you would do based on this model that is added to your profile. Now, the profile, you don't need to be logged in with Facebook or Google for that. This is based on your IP. So the IP is the address of the computer. They recognize the computer or your phone, and based on that, they build these layers of data. Now you have to understand that the watchers are also very communal. It's like a sharing economy. They're sharing your data all around with other watchers to create a wider profile on you. And this is done to a very wide scale. So how many of you are very excited about the fact that you're being tracked like that? Come on. Yes. Yes. So I haven't seen too many hands up when I asked who's excited about that. And that's because people are not very excited about that. And because they're not very excited about that, 3 years ago, there was an initiative from the White House with a couple of consumer rights organizations and with a couple of corporations that joined this initiative to commit to supporting Do Not Track. Now, Do Not Track is this initiative that says, if I don't want to be tracked, I can say I don't want to be tracked, and no profile would be maintained on me, which sounds very good and sounds like it's not a perfect solution, but it's a solution. And yeah, and if you use Firefox, you wouldn't find it on Chrome. But if you use Firefox, you would already see that you can mark that you do not want to be tracked. Most sites, though, would not respect that. For the mere reason that let's just say that the Do Not Track committee haven't finished its job. And apparently, as the Do Not Track committee was working, troubles have arisen. People started to leave. This one saying he's leaving it looks like there's a lack of a viable path to consensus. Another one leaves, and then the group had not only failed to agree on a definition of the term tracking, but could not even agree on what problem it sought to prevent. Right? So little by little, you could understand that the corporations that are sitting on this committee are there to make sure it never does its job. In one of the meetings, they almost had a majority to say, oh, the committee has decided to kill itself, to decided that do not track is not needed. Okay, so there's this stalemate of the do not track. It's been going on for a long time, and basically nothing comes out of it. And at this point, it looks like it's probably better for nothing to come out of it than for them to come out with this definition that this is do not track, which would mean nothing. So this is the kind of the background for the state of affairs when it comes to tracking, especially in the context of online advertising. And you would say, you know, what is the problem, right? We've all read and agreed to the terms and conditions. The thing is, in the case of online advertising, we haven't even agreed to any terms. So you're browsing the web, you haven't signed anything that says you can be tracked, this can be used, this can be maintained, and so on. So we're not even in this like make-believe formal legal liability thing. So especially after the Snowden revelations, what we're seeing is are a couple of approaches. Some people are just saying, I don't know what's going on there, and I hope for the best. So maybe bad. Others are saying, yeah, it sucks. I know I'm being used. I know they're building profiles on me. I know the NSA has access to them. I know the Israeli Information Society has access to them. I know that I'm being subjected to price fixing and whatever based on this made-believe identity that is built on me, but I'm not. There's nothing for me to do. And the third group is actually a bit more proactive, and they're protecting themselves. So using different technologies to encrypt their communication and ways of blocking trackers and so on. And that approach is commendable on one hand, but it's practiced by uber geeks that actually understand all of the encryption things. And the second thing is it's about them protecting themselves.
So they work with their own servers, for example?
It doesn't need to go that far, but there are a couple of different ways of making sure that your communication is not tracked to that degree. We won't get into it because it's technical and boring. But the problem that we have with this approach is that it's the opt-out option. It means that whatever goes on, like it's the law of the jungle. You don't need to run faster than the predator. You just need to run faster from the rest of the prey. So as far as solidarity is involved, like there's no solidarity involved in this. What we're trying to opt for and suggest is a fourth response, which is picking up a fight. And that is where Adnauseam comes, the imagine like animation. I'll show you a short trailer for the project.
As data hoarding corporations keep sabotaging the constitution of the Do Not Track standard, and ad networks keep selling our profiles behind our backs, we are left with no choice but to fight back. From the studios that brought you TrackView, the browser extension that keeps searching to obfuscate your search queries, comes yet another data obfuscation plugin. Adnauseam. Clicking ads so you don't have to. The Adnauseam plugin works in concert with your favorite ad blocker. Every ad blocked is then silently clicked by Adnauseam, confusing your data trackers by virtually liking all ads. Within your browser, the Adnauseam add-on collects and visualizes your clickstream over time, giving you a small glimpse of the data you passively generate. Adnauseam works in the background and does not interfere with your browsing. Point your browser at this URL and install Adnauseam now. Spread the word and help us code as we work to make Adnauseam better and to bring it to more people in more browsers. Finally, to the ad industry, we would like to say it is time to be respectful of our privacy expectations. Let's work together towards an honest and meaningful do not track standard. Until that day comes, be sure we will keep pushing your buttons. All of them.
So this is Adnauseam. And Adnauseam is joining this, this wider approach of fighting through using obfuscation. And this is basically who I am, right? This is how I'm perceived through these ad networks. These are the clicks that I've clicked. This is also, we see it as this is, every Adnauseam user is getting this big data, this is not that big data, but this overview of who you are. It's kind of a self-portrait. At the same time, it's also a parody of big data. Big data...
It's spam, no? It's like you used to get in your mailbox at home, those flyers, it looks exactly the same kind.
Yeah, but basically it's taking all of the things that you would have seen online and putting them all together, because you're using an ad blocker and you don't get the chance to see the ads. So this is a chance to get all of them at once, which obviously doesn't work. But at the same time, this idea of the big picture, of overview, of understanding the aggregate of everything, it only works if we believe in it, and we don't. We're trying to suggest that you shouldn't either. And this is, you have to understand that targeted advertising hasn't proved itself yet. It's like a prophecy that if we just get a bit more data or just a bit more and a bit more, then we'll be able to do things that advertising has never been able to do before. Well, advertising does things that advertising has not been able to do before, but it's not like there has been this exponential growth of like systemic growth of what advertising can do. But I want to talk a bit more about obfuscation and to put it in a bit of a historical context. This is a historic example that we really like, and I think it teaches us a lot.
Have we a count of prisoners?
We haven't made the final count, sir.
I bring a message from your master, Marcus Licinius Crassus, commander of Italy. By command of his most merciful excellency, your lives are to be spared. Slaves you were, and slaves you remain. But the terrible penalty of crucifixion has been set aside on the single condition that you identify the body or the living person of the slave called Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus.
hope you all caught the tear. So what we like about this example is that there can be an element of obfuscation that is about solidarity. And that's one thing that we're seeing as missing from the debate. So what we mean by obfuscation, the production, inclusion, addition, or communication of misleading, ambiguous, or false data in an effort to evade, distract, confuse data gatherers, or diminish the reliability and value of data aggregations. And we can, I want to go through a couple of examples for obfuscation, or rather why and when obfuscate. So one reason would be to provide cover or plausible deniability. Plausible deniability is actually a very important thing in society, because data is supposed to be a context for us to live in rather than an apparatus to control us. And plausible deniability is important in that context. So this is the only example from nature that we found that is it's fascinating. It's a spider that to protect itself from predators, it sculpts itself, right? It creates sculptures, kind of selfies, from remains of its prey and leaves and stuff like that. It creates decoys within its web. So when a predator comes, they might attack the sculptures rather than the spider itself. This is also an opportunity to distinguish between obfuscation and camouflage. So camouflage would be, this is the environment, I'm going to be a part of the environment. Obfuscation is, this is me, let's make the environment look like that. Another example is Tor. So Tor is a way of protecting your privacy online rather than connecting directly into a website or some web service. You connect through a network of other users, and every bit of communication is funneled through a whole network, and it's really hard to actually understand who asked for that bit of information. Another reason to use obfuscation is to buy time. So this is not only about, in some cases it wouldn't be about catching, about whether I can be caught or not, but how long it would take. So here's an example from World War II.
The only way a radar echo can be identified as an aircraft is by its relative size, shape, velocity, and height. Mechanical jamming is accomplished by introducing various devices into the radar beam, which are capable of producing echoes like an aircraft. A relatively small number of highly reflective metallic foil devices, for example, can produce many false target echoes. To the untrained operator, the appearance of many such echoes can be confusing. The decision of the Allied command to use mechanical jamming was predicated on the need to conduct large-scale bombing raids against German industrial targets. To avoid untenable losses, the bombers required protection against radar-controlled anti-aircraft artillery and radar-equipped fighter aircraft. In the Allied raid on Hamburg in June 1943, more than 30 tons of aluminum foil were dropped by Allied aircraft. The result was a 75% reduction in bomber losses compared to those suffered previously in similar strikes. The use of mechanical jamming by the Allies continued throughout the war.
So this is a very kind of institutional or warfare example. There's also this really weird example now.
Anthony Curcio was about to attempt one of the most bizarre bank robberies in recent history. After 3 months of meticulous planning, everything was in place, including the final detail, decoys.
I need to create the crowd. How can I get people to show up at all this place? You know, at one time or whatever. My thing was, I'm gonna go make a Craigslist posting, and I'm gonna get people to wear the exact same thing I was wearing there.
He posted a convincing ad luring eager landscapers with promises of $28 an hour. It specified a uniform, blue hat, blue shirt, safety glasses, and a yellow vest, a minor investment for someone looking for a job. He even followed up by email with more details, where and when to meet, and to stay put until their supervisor showed up. And it worked. The morning of the crime, a crowd of hopeful workers stood cluelessly outside the bank.
This was the get-up Percio's ad called for. Now imagine me times 15. So, now one of these guys was going to pull off the ultimate heist that morning. The rest, they were going to help. They just didn't know it.
So it actually goes on. He manages to run to a nearby creek where there's like an inflated wheel waiting for him. So he kind of ditched the place on a wheel, like in the water, a booth. Pretty awesome.
And it worked for him?
For a while, obviously. If he tells the story, then. Yeah. So another important reason that I can really identify with is the need to protest or perform in the light of this situation. One example is this is a recent project. It's called Scare Mail. This artist Ben Grosser actually he researched the keywords that the NSA is looking for, and he added all of them to his email signatures. So every email that he sends will have to be read by the NSA. Every stupid email like this one. So, and this is an example of the signal versus the noise, right? If there's so much signal, it's not a signal anymore, right? Or there's so much noise, these signals stop being signals. The same way, like if everybody's Spartacus, nobody's Spartacus. And another example from World War II, in World War II, when the Jews in Amsterdam were required to wear the yellow Star of David, as an act of solidarity, some of the non-Jews of Amsterdam wore it as well. This is probably a myth, but it's a nice one. And yeah, yet another reason for using obfuscation would be to foil profiling. So there's a browser plugin called I Like What I See. You can imagine what it does. Every like button that comes across this browser is clicked.
The problem is?
Well, obviously it trashes your feed completely, which is delightful when you think about it. Another practice that has been around for many years is loyalty card swapping. So if you have like a card for Tiv Tam or stuff like that, the reason they want you to have that is because they want to target you. But if your whole building is using the same card, that's a bit different. And this is a site that is no longer online, but it used to be. You know what I mean?
It had a plugin.
Yeah. Yeah. So you don't want to log in to create a login to every little thing that you want to do online, like watching videos or stuff. So why not create it once and share it with everybody else? That site provided that. And yet another reason would be to impair databases. TrackMeNot is actually the collaboration between Daniel Howe and Helen Nissenbaum before I joined them for Adnauseam. They worked in 2006 on TrackMeNot. TrackMeNot works on your search queries. So if you're searching something, let's say at Google, Google tracks that to understand what you're interested in and when and how much and so on. What TrackMeNot does is it basically continuously searches. So it searches random quotes continuously. So somewhere within all of this communication, there's also the things that you searched. but now it's obfuscated with all of the rest. So yeah, there are a lot of reasons to obfuscate. I would say that we identify with a lot of them. And the next, because at the end of the day, we want to disrupt the all too cozy harmony between advertising and ad networks, to, let's say, poke holes within the cloud, to kind of debunk the whole big data thing. If big data wants to be big, let's see how big it can get, right? And from my perspective, I'm working a lot with data and with analyzing data and visualizing data. Everybody who works with data knows that most of the work is cleaning the data. And this is where most of the attention is focused. And the margin of error is so big that that the openness of the system becomes an opportunity for us. And you would say, of course, that this might be unethical because it's lying. The cult wouldn't be into that. And our argument for that is that this is the weapon of the weak. This is the only way for us to fight back. The reason that the Do Not Track committee never finishes their job is because they have nothing to lose. If they would have something to lose, then maybe we can rebalance this power structure. So yeah, we're picking up a fight. And if the noise is undetected, then your profile is blurred, and this is good for us, right? But even if in cases where the noise is detected, what usually happens when they realize that this cannot be real for someone to create so many clicks, this is probably a robot. So if it's a robot, there's no, or some kind of software, the profile is useless, and it's usually being thrown away, which is also good for us.
So your IP is not...
Well, they understand that the profiling is broken for this specific account. Or in other cases, they also understand that there's some kind of protest. Someone is picking a fight, which is also valuable for us. So to conclude, the internet that has been kind of sold to us in these celebratory terms of freedom and expression and creativity and so on is becoming more and more a place where we're required to obey. And this is something I've been interested in and researching quite a lot, how interfaces demand obedience. And what we're trying to do with Adnauseam is to use the interface in a way that it was not meant to be used. So ads were not meant to be used as a form of basically attacking these data minings. But the option is there. So this is just simply a different reading of what are you supposed to be doing with ads. There was some discussions earlier about making about how ethical Google or Facebook are, the fact that they only care about the user's joy. This book, Don't Make Me Think, is actually one of the Bibles of user experience design. It's all about lowering cognitive load and making sure that you don't think about things that are not important. And that's generally true when you're trying to direct someone through a system. But it gets to the point where the decision of what is important and what kind of things am I supposed to think about is becoming very, very unidirectional, especially when there are different forces involved. It has to do with this idea of affordance. There's a lot of discussion of affordance in industrial design and interface design. This idea of what am I allowed to do here? What is this tool allowing me to do? For example, this door, when I get a handle, I understand I can pull. When I get this kind of bar, I understand I'm supposed to be pushing. The term affordance has to do with affording attention. So how is our attention being afforded? Attention being the currency of the web is afforded by others who are using our attention as their currency. What we're trying to do here is to flip it back, basically creating signals for them, creating affordances for them to try to see whether they should pull or push and overspending this affordance. I'll just finish with this term that I'm trying to propose. Disambiguation has become this, you know what disambiguation is in Wikipedia? You go to an article that could have more than one meaning, and Wikipedia immediately needs to know, what did you mean? We can't have ambiguity. Ambiguity is not a part of knowledge. This is wrong. Like, let's smash ambiguity with disambiguation. And I was like, ambiguity is an important part of what we do and how we communicate and what makes us human. Definitely a huge part of knowledge. And I tried to track back, where is this term coming from? It's coming from, surprise, surprise, computer science. And it just slipped its way directly into culture as if it always belonged there. I would say if there's a role for us today as artists, as activists, as humanists, it's re-ambiguation, right? To say we can have digital culture, we can have everything that this communication tools and this digitization have to give to us, and still bear the costs of ambiguity. So go install Adnauseam. This is our slightly more bearable URL, adnauseam.io. And this is our site, and we ran a few workshops that I can talk about if you want. And thank you very much.